and welcome back to another episode of Everyday CX-ISM, the podcast that takes a real human experience and connects it to the business decisions that made it happen. I'm Katie Stabler, founder and director of Cultivate, Customer Experience by Design, a global and award-winning customer experience agency. And in this podcast, we take a look at real human consumer customer experiences. We dig into them a little bit, try and figure out what's perhaps gone on in the business background, and hopefully take away some lessons that we can all apply in our way of doing things. And you might be pleased to know that in this episode, episode 6, we have a happy customer experience. Yes, so far we have shared one positive experience out of 5. Episode 6 is another positive experience, and I can't wait to share it with you. So let's dig in. I, like many, am a prolific Amazon consumer. I want things simply, I want things easily, and I want things tomorrow on next day prime delivery. But I am trying to be more conscientious of that buying choice. And actually, I'm trying to use more local providers or smaller companies, and I'm trying to order in advance so I don't need that next day delivery. This is how I came to be a consumer of hunter and gatherer. So I'm on a perpetual mission. Perpetual? I'm on a perpetual mission to increase my protein intake. As a regular gym goer, I know I need to increase my protein intake, and I find it hard to do naturally. I don't like to rely on protein shakes. So my social media algorithm is working at its finest, and it keeps promoting bone broth to me. Bone broth. Lots of good nutrients, high in protein, low in fat and calories. Seems like a good option. And rather than go to Amazon straight away, although granted I did have a little look on Amazon, I went into Google, I searched for bone broth, and Hunter and Gatherer came up. I'd never heard about them before. They were a brand new company to me, but I had a little nosy through their website, and instantly the vibe of the website, the look, the feel, it got my attention. And I did my research. I looked at the product, I looked at what it offered, I looked at the nutrients, I looked at the price, I did a comparison with a few other products. And you know what? Hunter and Gatherer was standing out there as far as quality and price goes. Something that also drew me in was that they had a subscription offer. So if you signed up on a subscription, you could choose the frequency, then the product price was discounted. Not only that, but when you subscribed, you got a couple of free gifts. So there was lots of positive things that were drawing me into picking Hunter and Gatherer as my choice of bone broth. It wasn't just that, but when I was having a look through the website, they had loads of other really interesting products I'd never heard of before. And actually, I ended up buying a lot more than just the bone broth. So they had me. I'm bought in, items in the basket, checked out. Great, happy with my purchase. So the next day I get an email from them. Now, granted, it's probably an automated email for new customers, but it was such a nice, really short email introducing me to the brand further, and not just the brand, but the founders of the brand. So the email was written from Amy and Jeff, the founders of Hunter and Gatherer, and in a really short, concise way, it explained that both of them had historically experienced health problems, were very conscientious about their diet, and their struggles became their purpose. They went on to create this brand, Hunter and Gatherer, to put food supplements out into the world with premium natural ingredients, a supplement that you can trust. And this email is such a nice touch. I'm trying to move away from purchasing from Amazon. I'm trying to move away from this commodity purchasing, this speed purchasing, this ease purchasing. And actually, in a world where we are so digital and where so much is being driven by AI at the moment, it was so nice to get this humanized, personalized email to explain a bit more about the brand and a bit more about the founders. It felt like they were trying to make a connection with me as a consumer. That was great. The next day, I get another email from them, and this time it's telling me how to use the products that I've bought. So rather than just getting the products in the post and seeing the little, how to use bit of writing on the back of the product, this actually was a way more detailed email giving recipe tips, hints, suggestions, ways that you can actually creatively consume the products that they've sent. Another really nice personal touch. And then a few days later, in the post, came this beautifully packaged box full of their goods. The box was branded, it had lots of cute little text on it. When you opened it up, it's got its social media handles. So, assumedly, you can take a photo and tag the products, which, of course, I have done. The products themselves are super high quality. The packaging that they come in is beautiful. It feels texturally nice. It just feels like there has been so much attention to detail in the way that everything has been put together. And of course, there was the little freebies in there as well. Got a scoop to scoop out the broth or the protein, and also a little whizzer mixer, which again, just super high quality. So I was really pleased with the products that came as well. So I think you can tell I'm bought in. I'm a brand new consumer of Hunter and Gatherer. I'm on a subscription already, so I'm going to maintain that subscription for the bone broth. Quite likely, I'm going to go back and try more of their products because they had such an interesting product list. But the way in which they have hooked me in as a consumer is not by accident. It has to be by design. Again, disclaimer as always, I don't work with or for hunter-gatherer, so anything that I share from here on in is purely musings. But let's dig in and think about actually how and why has all of this happened in the way that it's happened. One thing that Hunter and Gatherer have done really well is complete narrative coherence. So I said from the moment I went on the website, something resonated with me. It vibed, the style, the tone of voice, the imagery, and all of the way through, that narrative has been maintained. It is coherent. Receiving those personalized emails, receiving the email on how to use the product, that really bit of helpful information and advice. The beautifully packaged products, the high quality products, all of these small touches maintain this brand narrative, which I think they've worked really hard to achieve. Every touch point that they created for me, there was no contradiction. In fact, it just deepened the narrative that they had provided and that my brain had created. And my brain as a consumer is looking for constant confirmation, which they absolutely succeeded to provide me. Now, the one thing that I really love about this experience so far is in a world where companies hide behind this corporate anonymity or seek for this, I don't know, this like bland level of professionalism. Jeff and Amy, the founders, have deliberately chose to keep it human, to make it personal, to build that relationship. They have made that deliberate choice to be that kind of brand. They've shared their personal story. They've shared their health struggles, their reason for creating this brand. And they've done so really smartly because it's likely that a lot of the people who are searching for their kind of products have either experienced something similar or are likewise very health conscious individuals. So their choice to share their story isn't just to build a relationship, but it's actually to make a connection on a much deeper level. Their health struggles became our Mr. and Mrs. Consumer rationale for trusting their products. That's not manipulation, that's reciprocal vulnerability. And in this story, it's not about big wow moments, it's not about going over and above. It's actually just setting a level of expectation and meeting it. So throughout the whole experience, yes, they've put in these little touches, which I personally have just found beautifully connective. When the products came in the post, for example, I was expecting them to be beautifully packaged. I was expecting them to be high quality. My expectations weren't exceeded in that moment. They were met, but they were beautifully met because all of the way through this experience, from the point that I first came across them through that Google search, they set my expectations that this was going to be a high quality product with the personal touch that they have continued to ensure happens. This is a great demonstration that companies don't have to go over and above to make this happy advocate of a customer, but actually they have to just deliver on the promises they set, whether those promises are clearly articulated or they are just created through the experience that they are delivering. This consistency between promise and delivery is so seriously underrated. The other thing that they did here is they applied discounts and freebies. If you listen to the things that I share regularly, you will know that actually discount and freebies aren't things that I promote as requirements for a good customer experience. They are absolutely not. But they can be the hook you need to get customers in the first place. And I'm going to hold my hands up. I am a budget hunter. I'm a savvy customer. I like a bargain. I like a deal. I like a freebie. So when I was looking at their products, yes, I already saw it was good value compared to a comparison of other similar products. But did it tip me over the edge when I saw you could get a discount for a subscription? It may well have done. Did it push me even further when I noticed that there were freebies as part of the product purchase? It may well have done. Do I need those freebies? No. Do I have about 6 mini little drink whiskers? Yes, I do. Do I appreciate the new one that I got from Hunter and Gatherer? Yes, I do. The thing is with these is they definitely do work as hooks. And when you're in a competitive market where there are a lot of similar products available, then of course, something extra to get people in, to get them bought into your brand is a great hook. It definitely worked for me in the case of Hunter and Gatherer. But going past that, now they've got me in, they can start to show me the kind of brand that they are, which they have done with their communication. And moving forward, hopefully the products speak for themselves. I'm going to be so happy, so satisfied with the products and with the continued customer service that they don't need those hooks. They don't need those freebies to keep me as an engaged, retained customer. But ultimately, the big thing here is that Hunter and Gatherer align with my values. I want to move away from being a prolific Amazon consumer. I want to stop TikTok purchases. I want to be a more conscientious consumer. Hunter and Gatherer have confirmed to me that my actions are the right actions because by purchasing from them and receiving such a lovely, thoughtful, personalized, humanized, connected experience, it has really validated my choice not just to purchase instantly and have that instant gratification. This alignment is so powerful. They're not competing on speed or convenience. They're competing on meaning, and more consumers are looking for this kind of connection, alignment, and meaning with the brands that they purchase from. And you know, Hunter and Gatherer are not unique in this approach. For a long time now, I have purchased my stationery for a company called Pabia? Oh my gosh, I've just realized I don't know how to pronounce their name. I'll put the link to the website in the show notes for this episode. But they provide beautiful stationery, mainly notebooks. But again, from first shopping with this company, they've had a very similar approach. The bespoke personal emails, the beautiful wrapping that the books come in, every single touch point is just beautiful. And another company that I've advocated for and vocally, socially for a long time is Abel and Cole. They provide organic groceries across the UK, and just like Hunter and Gatherer, their email communication is personalized. They also send out regular personal offers, so they're really using their data to understand customers and show that they understand their customers. But everything about their brand is specific to a certain type of consumer, and that comes across and it becomes very personable, very relatable, and makes me a continued customer of that brand. So regardless of what kind of company you are, whether you're a product or a service company, there are a number of fantastic takeaways that you can apply to your business moving forward. The first one has to be that cohesive narrative. Build a cohesive narrative across your brand. Whenever I work with companies, this is always something we work very hard to do, because especially as the company gets larger and larger and larger, it's very hard to maintain that cohesive narrative across all of your departments, all of your people, and therefore all of your forward customer facing touch points. But it is so important because your brand, your experience, it needs to feel as one to the customer. You've got to remember that the first time your customer interacts with you is only part of their journey. They will have experienced you before that interaction in some way or another. whether it's through social media, whether it's through your website, whether it's through a friend's recommendation, a news story, all of these different things. They build a narrative in your customer's head that you have to work hard to then either adhere to, or if it wasn't a great narrative, improve. Every interaction, every email, every touch point, every website click, every store visit, every customer service agent spoken to or chatbot interacted with, these all have to have a consistent and cohesive narrative. And on that point, you've got to meet expectations. Exceeding them is great, that's one thing, but actually just meeting expectations is good enough. If you are creating a certain level of promise to your customer, you need to meet them. If you're setting a certain standard in delivery, you need to meet that standard. Whatever the expectations are that you set, you need to, as a minimum, deliver on those expectations. And let's talk about freebies and discounts for a second, because this is super important. Again, I don't advocate for these as a absolute must go to. You do not have to give away freebies. You do not have to give away discounts. But if you do, functional generosity rather than random is the way to go forward. What do I mean by that? In this case, in hunter-gatherer's case, the scoop, the whisk, the freebies, the discounts, they weren't just padding. They were very cleverly, very smartly used hooks to get me to become a consumer. Again, being aware that they're in a competitive industry, these small touches are a way to get an already interested consumer to be an actual consumer. They felt purposeful, they felt intentional, and they worked. The intention behind those is what makes a good loss leader or a bad loss leader. But ultimately, the big one here is absolutely humanization isn't an optional, it's the absolute differentiator. The fact that Amy and Jeff chose to introduce themselves, chose to tell their story, chose to create a brand with such a beautiful narrative, that was incredibly intentional and incredibly smart. In a world, again, I'm going to say it again, where AI and technology dominate so much of what we do in business, Amy and Jeff have chosen to make sure the humanity, the human feeling, the personal connection is front and center of their brand. Amazon can't send emails from all of the founders in the marketplace. TikTok founders get lost in this mass market of influencers reselling products. Hunter and Gatherer have done what these giants can't do. They've leaned into real people with real reasons. And that is what captures the hearts, minds, and purse of a consumer like me. Sometimes the most surprising but effective customer experiences isn't about surprise or excess. It isn't always about speed and convenience. It's about showing up as yourself. It's about keeping promises. It's about meeting the expectations that you set. And it's about thinking about what your customers actually need. I think that personally, we could all take a leaf out of Amy and Jeff's book over at Hunter Gatherer. And again, this is not an ad, but the links will be in the show notes if you want to check out their products as well. Happy CXing.